behalf of ITP Media, Manufacturing Today magazine, Infor and BDMA, I welcome you all in today's webinar on Maintenance 4.0, Manage Asset That Matters. ITP Media Group publishes more than 100 weekly and monthly magazines and has a wide portfolio of market-leading digital properties. We also organize more than 100 business and consumer events and conferences globally every year. Manufacturing Today magazine is leading India's magazine which focuses on people, process, and technology for small and mid-sized and large organizations. Our partner for today, Infor, is a global leader in business cloud solution product for companies in industry-specific market. Over 67,000 organizations worldwide rely on an Infor to help overcome market disruptions and achieve business-wide digital transformation. Manufacturing industry is now been able at the forefront in embracing implementation new technologies in this disruptive age. The agility of the company completely depends on the new technology, which defines its success. The global pandemic has caused upheaval everywhere in the economy. It impaired that critical manufacturing sectors such as pharmaceutical, life science, chemical, and industrial companies regularly adopt an enterprise-wide asset management systems. With this, I would like to introduce our keynote for today, Mr. S. Satish. He's partner and lead consumer and operation transformation, KPMG India, to deliver his keynote on maximizing asset performance with advanced EAM. Satish, just a small couple of lines about you. Satish brings in over 24 years of consultancy experience. He is a specialist in operation transformation, engagement involving engineering, procurement, production, supply chain, logistic area, driving tangible benefits across all manufacturing sectors. The different solutions Satish has led, including Learn, Lean, Six Sigma, Total Production Maintenance, Manufacturing Excellence and Cost Reduction, and many more. Over to you, Satish.
Thank you. Thank you, Hafiz. Good afternoon, all of you. To connect in this seminar on Maintenance 4.0, I represent, many of the views which I actually represent here are personal. Would like to actually bring in the experience of what I actually see here. Let me share a brief presentation with you and run you through the presentation in setting up the context. Given that economy is reviving post-COVID, there's a lot of focus on maximizing asset productivity across companies, and hence new age maintenance is getting focus in boardrooms. Okay, and if you really look at what's happening per se is there was a survey which was conducted, okay, to look at where 65% of oil and gas executives felt equipment reliability is one of the top 3 sources of competitive advantage. Of course, it was said by O&G companies dominantly, but it's true across companies. 81% of them felt leveraging digital tools in maintenance is a top focus area to ensure equipment reliability. And 95% of the companies surveyed are investing in annual training of their maintenance personnel on developing them on new technologies, training them on digital technologies. So if you really could see, we see maintenance is going through a transformation. And if you reflect back in terms of where did we start this journey, okay, if you really look at maybe somewhere in 1940s and 1955s, the first generation maintenance, when you look at it, it was more reactive. Fix it when it breaks. There was some basic and routine maintenance. It was more breakdown maintenance, which was actually followed per se on that. Then came the second generation, which is 1955 to 1975, where the focus was not only on breakdown maintenance, but they also started looking at time-based maintenance and planned preventive maintenance. Okay, that's something which actually started. Then the generation actually shifted to condition-based maintenance, reliability-centered maintenance, and computer-aided maintenance management. But if you really look at the key differences, it was still dependent on manual data, recording of data, planning driven based on experience, understanding of patterns based on data collection was what was actually happening. Even as recent, as 2015, maybe things started actually changing. Okay, and if you really look at what is the current generation, which people are talking about as Maintenance 4.0, aligned with Industry 4.0, where usage of big data to understand equipment patterns, IoT, artificial intelligence, and machine learning very, very widely used to understand what exactly is happening in equipment, derive trends and patterns, leveraging analytics to do very, very sharp and a focused maintenance than a planned maintenance. That's a key shift which is actually happening. Now, if you were to articulate what is exactly changing and why are this thing, why are we talking about it? Yes, there is an invention of there is a lot of spreading of industry 4.0 digital manufacturing happening, which is driving. But there are some more things which are actually driving here. One, today machines are becoming more and more smarter to track themselves, to self-monitor themselves on their condition, as well as external environments through sensors and external sources. It's one of the key drivers of what exactly is changing. Second, there is a need for remote servicing. Of course, COVID in a way has actually accelerated it, but people are looking at that irrespective of the location where I actually operate in, can I get connected with the equipment to do remote servicing, understanding there's a need which is coming in, and equipment manufacturers are working on that. Third, big data and analytics engines. There are multiple models and algorithms which are available to drive precise maintenance than planned and periodic maintenance because your ability to predict is far higher. Fourth, like autonomous cars, people are actually talking about autonomous equipment and autonomous machines, which actually operate with very minimum or no manual intervention to produce the desired output, which means the machine self-correct itself. And if you really look at the underlying technologies which are actually helping in are one, of course, smart equipment, as I talked about, artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms, IoT, and 3D printing is helping maintenance in a very, very big way. And the three terms which I keep hearing from CEOs very, very specifically for this transformation are one, information excellence. We are getting real-time data. We are getting maximum data to predict patterns. So it's driven by information excellence. Solution leadership. Okay, if you really look at in terms of whatever solution we are actually trying to drive, how do we drive end-to-end solutions? I don't not only supply equipment, but also work completely in terms of taking care of the equipment, providing information to the customer, proactively doing services. That's something which has changed. Third is collective intimacy. Collective intimacy is it actually brings in the client and the supplier coming together in suppliers providing more value-added information to customer by which they're able to actually manage. All the three are perspectives that the CEOs bring in to do this change. Let me give you a few examples, okay, in terms of how are these actually being followed. I talk about a major truck manufacturer, one of the leading brands. The key challenge they were actually facing was unplanned stoppages of trucks in roads, which was leading to extra repair costs, lost transportation revenue, and damage to customer reputation. So the company actually, installed, equipment modifications to start tracking analytics by sensors installed on equipment which communicate with the trucking company. So they started actually monitoring the usage of trucks. It starts looking at what component is going to fail even before the truck reaches the service center. And if you really look at what they are able to do is their ability to mobilize what exactly is going to fail is enhanced, and they were able to get 70% reduction in diagnostic time and 20% reduction in repair time because they get to know which truck is going to come and what is the failure for it. This is true for another leading beverage manufacturer in Belgium, where the focus was very, very clearly on unplanned downtime. Okay, something was the reason. They were actually losing around 20,000 euros in terms of lost production and replacement parts. They went on analytics-based machine health analyzer, where they were actually collecting data on vibration sensors from 5,000 points across the entire manufacturing lines. Some of them had permanent sensors which are actually installed in line. The interesting part is they are able to predict which bearing is actually going to fail. As you all know, the carousel is one of the very, very key points in terms of the entire filling line efficiencies is actually determined. Their ability to predict a particular bearing which was about to fail is something which they could actually do very, very advanced. And the second interesting part is the machine manager defines the maintenance schedules dynamically based on the performance of the equipment. So which necessarily means they were able to actually get in reduction in production time, minimized outages, and improved maintenance planning. If you look at more, okay, one more thing is one of the very, very leading German giants, automobile, very, very known brand, is actually using a predictive maintenance platform to look at the remaining useful life using prognostication, which is predicting what's going to happen in future of 7,500 assets. Now, the interesting part over here is your unplanned downtime came down by 50%. 2 weeks or 6 months of advance warning of the asset is actually going to fail, and year-on-year OE improvements, has to definitely happen. One more application is one of the leading German airlines where your predictability of your aircraft component failure is of high paramount importance. So it was also, a labor-intensive process. Large quantity of data was, earlier collected manually, and there was no tool used for analysis. So they deployed AI and machine learning. So their ability to predict which component is going to fail across multiple fleets, the strength actually came in, which helped them to reduce the cost of maintenance, reduce downtime by 20%. Okay, these are all some examples. This is similar for, it's also applicable in many machine manufacturing ones on milling machines, looking at spindle failures, looking at heat exchanger applications where there is a clogging. People adopt sensors to identify where it's actually going to clog, provide input to clients, and able to actually attack things far faster. Now, these are all about application of AI and ML in terms of driving maintenance. One more biggest technology which has come in handy is 3D printing, which is once again a major, because one of the key challenges which maintenance many times I've heard across is spares not available, and hence you stop the production, leading to a loss of things. That's where 3D printing comes handy, which helped one ensuring spare parts are available on time, and you also add a lot of value engineering because now today it's actually 3D printed. So the machines don't stop for want of production. So 3D printing of parts happen in metal and plastics with the automobile manufacturer. So they're able to produce, earlier the part was produced in multiple setups. Here they're able to produce in one setup. There is no different additional tooling which is actually required, reduce storage costs, and parts are made available when it's required. Similar is with the steel component manufacturer who actually uses laser-based 3D printing for production, in which they're also able to produce 35% lighter products, and they get further benefits further to it. So a lot of work is actually happening in digital maintenance. Maybe I'll present one last slide and actually stop. One question which will come into your mind very clearly is, okay, fine, absolutely, we're hearing a lot about Industry 4.0, digital maintenance 4.0 is also being heard of. Where do I start? So that's where, if you really look at it, one of the key things which companies are actually focusing on is on this 5 areas. Okay, obviously the entire focus is prioritized first to start with high business impact areas. So when you look at from a maintenance perspective, the key areas are: one, focus on data quality. Where are you? What kind of data is being collected today? Do you get the real time data? Or do you get the right data, first of all? Okay, more than real-time data. First, do you get right data? So setting up the right KPIs, setting up the right data collection mechanisms, that's one of the important things. Identifying that is very, very important. Second, identifying gaps in the way currently preventive maintenance is being done. Okay, of course, Samir will talk later on how do you actually measure, the maturity of an organization. So look at where do you lie, from your own preventive maintenance maturity is very, very important. Third aspect is on change management of leveraging technology. Okay, you can bring in technology, but somewhere there is a push, there is a coaching which is actually required, and a soft nudging which is to be done to ensure that they leverage technology to go about identifying patterns. If your company which is actually practicing predominantly planned maintenance, you may actually introduce condition-based monitoring on few areas to ensure saying that people collect data and do maintenance when it's actually required, rather than doing a planned maintenance throughout. And fifth is, once you've done, piloted, tested, experimented, have a scale-up plan to do it with all your assets. So this is just a very, very quick snapshot to look at, what is digital maintenance 4.0 all about. We have a lot of eminent speakers and a very fantastic panel to train you, share the experiences, and take it forward. Thank you, Hafiz.
Thank you, Satish. And in fact, very, very quickly that you have taken to the entire journey of maintenance. One question that we have, if you'd like to take it, isn't 3D printing, you talk about 3D printing, isn't 3D printing many times more costlier than a spare part? Is that something which you want to answer it?
No, so if you ask me per se, many times what happens is one needs to actually take a bit of trade-off. Of course, as any new technology, 3D printing is also continuously evolving. There's a lot of science which is going on in looking at what kind of material which you can actually put for 3D printing. How do you actually modify the printers? There's a lot of science which is going on. So it's the cost of non-availability of spare and associated equipment downtime is far higher than the cost of the spare itself, and 3D printing comes to the rescue from that perspective.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think you have set the tone. I think with this. Thank you, Samir. We'll take the next session now. With this, I would like to invite Mr. Samir Makhija, who's the Director Asset Management Solution, IMEA Infor, to share his insight on Maintenance 4.0, Manage Asset That Matters. Samir is responsible for enterprise asset management business in India, Middle East, and Africa. He has over 22 years of experience focusing on business application, including enterprise asset management, ERP, contact centers, and many more. He will be sharing Infor vision on enterprise asset management during the event and how Infor has embraced IoT, analytics, AI, and industry-specific features in solution design, is able to beautiful offer an easy to use business application for its customers. Over to you, Samir.
Thank you, Hafiz. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Are you able to see my presentation as well? My sincere thanks to Satish. I think what Satish has been able to do in 5 minutes is definitely very tough because when you have to put a concept into minimal time, I know it's very difficult, but you really beautifully summarized it so well. So let's probably elaborate this, and then hopefully through my presentation and through the panelists, I think we are able to have this time more successful. So anyway, if you want to connect with me, I am available on LinkedIn with Samir Makhija as a profile. So I'm looking forward to connect with you as we go forward. So what's today's agenda? I have kept it very simple in terms of what about the industry, question asked on the digital journey, how various customers have adapted, and then concluded. And my whole objective has been that based on whatever experience I have tried to keep it very practical so that I'm only sharing things which are very much achievable as of today. So coming to the current state, yeah. So this is definitely we have the leaders representing manufacturing from various pharmaceutical. Definitely there are terminologies called Industry 4.0. We talk about maintenance 4.0 because we are more maintenance related. If you go to pharma, probably the pharma calls for pharma 4.0. At least as far as we are on 4.0, it looks okay. So really, what are the dynamics we are talking about? I think it's very important that we look into the various trends and few specific areas, and especially the companies like yours are leading the space by aligning their maintenance towards the digitization. But where is the key difference? Here, customers are really looking into now the ability to plan the right kind of activity at the right time, rather than just looking into reactive or equipment failure or preventive point of view. And that's where really the businesses are evolving. It's becoming more service oriented, and the models are all the models which are really working upon are catering towards that need. I think the second one is definitely the most basic one and the primary one, where the organization, they look forward to ensure that the plants are running at a peak performance. But this is where the concept of OE, which is not a new concept, but the implementation of this particular concept is becoming very important. And this is the standard which all the organizations are trying to put it. They are really trying to understand the percentage of manufacturing time that is truly productive. And in terms of asset uptime, that is very important, and that is very useful. The third aspect, definitely with the incidents, unfortunate incidents, which we keep on hearing in various industrial situations, especially towards chemicals and all. I believe this is one of the most serious topic which is being considered by all the industries, and we also personally believe that in terms of EHS, I believe there is a very special emphasis within each organization. Then, as we go into certain industries, compliance towards FDA, whether looking into the GMP practice, I believe these are very key as we are working into the global markets. And last but not least, the base of technology. And this is where probably we come into. There is definitely a shift towards what we call it as a cloud market. Most of the organizations today, probably minus public sector, are very open to adapt the multi-tenant SaaS platform. There are various versions of SaaS, and that's where probably IT team looks into. And there are definite advantage when somebody talks about the multi-tenant SaaS options, because that really removes a lot of headache. I have a slide which talks into the later stage. And then, as Satish mentioned, the areas of Internet of Things or artificial intelligence or machine learning coming into your picture. So when we look into your environment, definitely we realize that assets are everywhere. Here, I know that if you are from the plant, you are more probably concerned about the production machines or the conveyors, and we spoke about the robotics. But when I see asset, I see more of a totality. I would say that each asset which is important for you to make your productivity on any can impact your business probably should be looked into. And that's where the complete asset lifecycle management, be it the fleet or the forklifts or the delivery trucks you are using or the facility which you are using, and not last but not least, the equipment, all are equally should be considered. So in your business, I think assets are everywhere. So the strategy has to be for all the assets. Now, as we move forward, where is the organization moving and what are the companies really saying? We talk about organizations that are shifting the critical assets. So ARC is pretty much ahead into something what they call it as prescriptive. This is, I would say, another version of predictive, where they see the significant improvements in cost availability. We talk about the data which can be analyzed. And we realize that sensors can detect 70% of failures across maintainable assets. So these are various stuff which comes out of from the relevant industry leaders. So what we really see is an approach from reactive, which I think most of us are having in place and looking into the base preventive maintenance to make to how your machine can really speak about its health. And that's the drivers which we really need to work upon. Always the question is that how do you take this journey? And these are few tips I would like to share from my point of view, which you can look into. Satish did really touched on a very base level, and I think I would probably further elaborate how you can do. Now, in my opinion, the first area which we talk about is to say that defining your strategy. And as we move any standards, I think it's very important. What is an organization policy? What is the strategy? And if you look into any standards, they really talk about. But basic is that where are you today? Where do you want to go to be tomorrow? And what really you need to do? So I'm presenting a very simple benchmark, which will help you to say that, okay, as an organization, where am I today? Let's see. And when I start looking into this particular screen, I see that these are the few guidelines which I can think of in terms of your asset management maturity model. I think the first one, two, and mostly third also, I would not really focus because most of the organizations today are understanding the importance of it. And the whole reason is that do you have a real platform to take you to stage 4 and stage 5? So this is where I would say an organization, when they are looking into, they should realize that in terms of their asset management practice, in terms of their maintenance practice, where are they at this particular point of view? So it's very important that the various systems, whether it is operational systems, so if you take into the optimization, there was, in fact, one of the event I was talking, we looked into that almost 80%, the feedback was the 80% of the data which is getting generated and maybe more in an organization is not used for business decisions. And most of the time, this data is from the operational asset management system. So this is, I would say, a first indicator to identify in terms of the organization. The second is that if you think of that I need to go into artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, if you think your on-prem scenario will be sufficient and IT will be able to provide you that tons of virtual machines and the storage and the security, the resilience, then I would say that you should really consider it. And that's where the cloud platforms are really taking more, I would say, uptake because of the kind of infrastructure which is required. So which means that today, if you are considering or doing all the stuff on-prem, it's high time that you start looking into the cloud options. Now, today, the cloud options are very flexible, which gives you the ownership of data. That means the data remains with you. However, all the situations in terms of the resilience, in terms of the security, the computing power which you are interested into, and elasticity. That means you can increase or decrease based on your requirement is what really any typical cloud offerings are being done. And then the kind of the models or the pre-configured models which these cloud offerings are giving is something very difficult to achieve from if you just stick to your on-prem option. So that's really a number two tip. And third, I think I would like to expand further what Satish said is that where is the value? I think it's very important in your organization, even though you are from the same, sometimes you're from the same industry, not necessarily that your maturity levels are same. So we need to individually say that where is the value of my organization I need to start to look into. And this is something which is very important to identify. So in your case, if mobility is where if you're interested into looking into the specifications and ensuring that the information is coming from the field at the fastest way, or energy, we are all aware that 30% or 35% of most of the industry spent is today on energy. So I know that energy tracking and the utilization is one of the most important, or in terms of the inspections. So all these things, when we start looking into the benefit, it's important we see that where is the value. And most of the typical ERP solutions are have some, it takes a lot of time to really implement the areas which probably the maintenance department is looking into. I just want to also quickly pick up that how Suez is our global customer. They use our product even in India. But one of their plant, they did really a great thing. And I just want to pick up some of the things on the standards which they worked upon. And here the key thing is that they didn't hire a very costly consulting company which is coming from outside and helping them. It is the asset management department which took the initiative, and they worked onto a simple golden rules. And they said, okay, if I have to pursue my excellence, and Satish, in fact, did mention working on the key performance indicators, and they really followed it into a very effective way. So they spoke about that what are my real legal contractual requirement, and this is where your organization vision, strategy, your policy really makes a difference. If you say that I have a vision of zero accident, that means your whole strategy should work towards that. Your whole initiative should work towards that. And we start looking into going into how the information, the right kind of information coming into uh, all the data which is associated to my assets, especially the assets which are critical to my organization. Am I collecting that information rightly? The third part is where the planning comes into that what is really I'm doing the planning for. Definitely, I'm looking into an asset investment planning, which will look into the risk. It will also tell me as an organization that what I need to spend in my future in 5 years, 10 years, because I need to have a replacement cost, which I need to really consider. And my objective is that I should extend the life of my asset using it in the most optimized way. And that's where this strategy of planning comes into picture, and then the typical execution which most of us are doing on the field through the work orders, the various kind of work orders, health and safety, and looking into the OE aspect. And last but not least is how do we really monitor at each stage. So if I look into all these maintenance golden rules, in summary, this is what really ISO 55001 is or 55,000 standard is expecting you to do. So if you really start looking into in a much simpler way, you can definitely pursue the standards which the globally people are looking into. So as we move forward, and this is the company which really achieved it at just with an internal effort. So this was something great, and this is like something last that realizing the need to change. So as an organization, I think it's very important that we accept that change is required, and it's a quote which I really love from Plant Engineering, Dave and Richard, that the sooner company digitalize, the more competitive they will remain and the more ready for future advancements like machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I would say the platform is very, very important. And this is what really one of our a customer in India, in fact, Godrej has done very well with us, where they have been using us for various multiple departments. They have done an integrated solution which picks up the data from SCADA, from MES, and going into the information which they are interested into and bringing the KPIs which stakeholders are interested into. But not only they are using it only for the a particular material handling equipment for the leasing purposes. This is the whole ecosystem where they have really deployed. They use the complete asset life cycle for all their facilities, and we talk about hundred thousands of assets into their plant, 25 manufacturing plants, into their utilities, into their effluent treatment plants, and then moving to their some of the enhanced products which they manufacture. So almost team of 1,000 people plus is using in India, and they have done something very simple, that how they want to use the operational data utilization. And first thing is that we think about IoT. Yes, I think the question is that if sensors somewhere the operational data is existing in our organization through PLCs, or I think that's the first thing we should really start targeting into, and that's what the team did. They started capturing the data. They used Info Rule Engine, and then based on that, they are generating the alerts, alarms for further processing and further action into the ERP and EM, asset management program, which they use through us. So it's not necessarily that we need to really look into very, very complicated things. We just need to scratch our mind, it's saying surface, and say, you know what, let's see how the data at this point of time is existing, and start seeing how we can start utilizing it, and then work out on a use case, which is one of our other customer did it, where they went into identifying the specific assets which were very important to them. They put the sensors which were related to vibration accelerometer, thermometer in terms of temperature, flow meter, pressure, and then they started measuring the information. They gave this, the information which was then sent to the cloud system where the processing was happening, and then they were able to in fact see that how the predictability of health, the trends which is happening, and then based on the thresholds which they were measuring, they are able to take the corrective actions in much ahead of the failure which happens. Definitely, they have minimized the chances of failure using this type of. So, in short, I would say that if I have to really summarize, as part Info, we are a US-based organization with a large setup in India, and with the solutions where we have 30 plus years of experience. What we bring in really, that we want to be a digital partner to your journey of digital transformation, and that's where we bring commercial off-the-shelf solution. And with many organizations, be it Pfizer, with GSK, I spoke about Suez, Godrej, we have true partnerships with our customers, and definitely we have team based out of India which can help you to map the journey. So thanks for this. Thank you very much.
Samir, thank you very much. Someone is want to know, no, not all asset can be on cloud. That is one. Some assets, would need to be purchased. Can you explain with one specific case study where some assets were digitalized or moved to cloud?
Yeah, so I am when I say that not all the assets can be on the cloud, I am more referring to the asset related information, and I am related to the alerts and alarms which are getting generated from the sensors. So generally, if I take as just a standard plain asset repository, you can always it's available in your application, and that application is actually hosted in the cloud. So in a way it's more of that your asset data is in the cloud because you're putting the asset related information. Now the second part comes up, that the data, now data is very similar whether you keep it in cloud, you keep it in on a server. It is just that the amount of data which starts getting generated slowly, in terms of maybe in terms of bits and kilobytes and all, which needs to be processed. It requires more of machine learning or artificial intelligence algorithms. Now, to do that kind of setup, that's where the cloud setup comes into picture. What we can do, probably we can take the name of the person, and we can always send a very specific case studies in terms of, let's say, for example, even Satish mentioned that the vehicles. Now, if you start tracking the data from the vehicles, each information which is coming out is probably into some kilobytes. But when it comes into hundred thousands of data every hour, it starts multiplying, and that data starts becoming more exponential. So the idea is that it is more of alarms and alerts, which is basically that information is going to the cloud for further processing. But definitely, I will, I'm not sure if I'm able to answer the question, because it's a little bit confusing that not all on the assets can be on cloud. So maybe it will be good to hear on the area. The second question is probably I can see also that, is digital twin possible in Info-EM? Answer is yes. We are very much collaborating with the companies which are into these type of whether it is kind of simulation, or it is looking into the BIM modeling, or looking into the GIS modeling. It is very much possible.
We are almost done on time. If you want to take this last question, and existing organization moving to digital maintenance will be a cost, and a ROI long duration. Your suggestion on this, how would you like to? You have given a couple of examples, but if you want to throw a couple of light on
No,
it.
I think each area, when we consider any benefit analysis, it is the kind of wastage which is happening into that particular process, versus when we improve that particular process, the benefit which will come into. And my suggestion is always that we know our organization, and the organization we will never be so wrong. There will be some things which we will be doing good, and some things which requires improvement. And the whole objective is to identify that really what we want to improve, and then based on the use case, the benefit analysis has come into. Most of the organizations which they are moving from let's say on-premise model to cloud, let's say one of the area itself is a biggest return of investment. Why? Because it not only takes care of your infrastructure, it takes care of your operating system, databases, which you needs to kind of spend every 3 years in changing it. You have to have people who have to have different knowledge of managing these type of infrastructure. And then on top of it, the upgrade part. Whenever you are on to a cloud like us, which are, when we call it as multi-tenant SaaS, you don't have to worry about the upgrade, because when we upgrade in one shot the whole region, and that's where the maturity of these systems have reached, that you are not doing those customizations which doesn't allow you to upgrade. Now, there's also another difference between asset management when you go alone, is that it is very specific to your organizational need. You don't have to wait for other departments to probably look into their upgrade, because if you take an ERP, If I have to improve my maintenance, and if it is into my next release, then I need to wait for 1.5 years or 2 years before the finance team agrees for let's say for upgrade. In this particular case, you upgrade it, and in when you are actually connected to your other finance system, it is fine. It continues to be as same. So there are definitely a lot of advantages, but we are happy to connect with you back, and please write it back to us, and we will be happy to connect with you.
Thank you, Samir. Thank you very much. In fact, with this, let's start with our panel discussion, which is already time for it at 3:30. So the topic for the panel discussion is optimizing maintenance operation to reach new level of efficiency and profitability. We have variety of industry experts to discuss on maintenance 4.0, that how can be rapidly achieved with right technology, smart assets, and planning to provide lasting business value. With this, I would like to introduce our panelists for today. We have Mr. Ashok Mathuswamy. He is AVP and Plant Head, Silica Tata Chemicals. Ashok Mathuswamy has 25 plus years of experience, global experience in manufacturing, operation, lean, Six Sigma, analytics, SCM, business excellence, and project management. As a plant and operation head, he looks after the entire PNL of responsibility. Also welcome Mr. Vilas Pujari, CIO, ACG Worldwide. Vilas Pujari is a seasonal C-suite IT professional in manufacturing domain. He has over 30 plus years of experience in IT and ERP. His career expands across Gujarat Ambuja Cement, Grasim, Tata International. He has been involved with multi-cycle of SaaS, SAP implementation, CRM, and others. Also welcome Kashyap Joshi, MEE Manager Maintenance, IMEA, India, Middle East, and Africa from Henkel Adhesive Technology, India. Kashyap also has 22 years of experience with chemical and plastic industry in operation, manufacturing technologies like adhesive, sealant, and others. Uh, the panel will be moderated by V. Binu George, Head of Business Consultancy Infor India, who is also our moderator for today. Binu is a principal consultant, spreadhead the solution catering to manufacturing, fashion, automotive, industry equipment, food and beverages. Binu has helped many companies in comprehending their business plan, point in using technology to solve their business issues at hand. Over to you, Binu.
Yeah, thank you, Hafiz. Welcome, panelists. Good afternoon to each one of you. Mr. Mathuswamy, Mr. Joshi, Mr. Pujari. I'm really privileged to have two operational persons and one CIO who can actually give us a lot of dimension. So I think we've got all the areas fairly covered. So I'll just start with a few points that maybe Satish and Samir spoke about. Give me a 30 seconds, 1 minute. I'll just share a few, set a context, and maybe then we get into a discussion. I hope that's okay with you. So, very interesting points. We all agree that maintenance is not something that is very new. Maintenance has been going on for ages, will go on for ages, but it's just a matter of efficiency that we get. Can you hear me? Maintenance is basically something that's been done using asset registers or all types of softwares you can use to do it. But I think there is a quantum jump that's come with the fact that maintenance with cloud computing is something that's bringing in the whole maintenance 4.0 into a reality, near reality as we see it. So Satish, he really beautifully touched upon the use of big data. We get a lot of data, but the data is primarily residing in some of our most expert and experienced technicians on the ground. If the person falls sick, unfortunately, then we lose that capability of getting the big data. That is the way it is today in most of the companies that I have interacted with. Then we have a lot of breakdown and preventive maintenance done, which Samir did show in his presentation, and preventive breakdown, all of that is done. Cutting edge companies are now trying to look at making big sense of the word that I want to quote unquote say fresh data, as Satish mentioned. Something that is real-time data that something is going to break down is more important than data that it is broken down. You get my point, right? So these are things that I think our predecessors really touched upon very well. Managing an unplanned downtime cloud computing is something that we talk about. Having said this, let me start directly getting into the questions, and I'll start with Ashok. Ashok, what has been your experience, generally an experience as a maintenance person with the current company that you're working? If you could share that for 30 seconds, I would take a round with all the other panelists also.
Sure. Thanks, Binav. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm not going to say anything very fresh besides what Satish and Samir mentioned. But that being said, I'm going to echo, and I'm also going to touch upon certain practical aspects which I'm experiencing in the plant. See, as a plant head, I need to have a plant running 24/7 at the rated capacity, or maybe exceed that. So there is not too much room for any reduced output. So that being said, the modern AI techniques, whether it's predictive modeling, where you collect data through the sensors, mainly in our case, rotary equipment, monitor the conditions such as vibration, temperature, ultrasound, electrical load, and mining the data and performing analytics really will help us predict the failure. So we will be well prepared to go and service that piece of equipment, maybe put a redundant drive in place, and we'll take this for maintenance, and then do all those juggling. These modern developments really help us accomplish these aspects. In fact, what we also, one of the beautiful aspects about this intervention is that you can actually de-skill your crew. See, we do not need to have extremely skilled or talented maintenance guy. If the equipment, if you have analytics to tell you that, hey, the bearing is failed, or the drive is coming out of its foundation or whatever, I can have a slightly lesser skilled person to go and attend that. So in a way, while, at the initial state, at an initial stage, you may need to have, you need to put this into place, and you need to have slightly skilled personnel. But on an ongoing basis, you can run the plant better with less skilled people. So that is called de-skilling, which is very, very prevalent in IT industry or even BPO industry. How you continuously de-skill the operations, so that today you want somebody, a graduate engineer, to do a job. Tomorrow, how could you just freshly hire some diploma person, or maybe even go one level below, and still accomplish the job at the same level or exceed that level? And these modern interventions, I'm really looking at these to get us into that direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok. That was a very interesting perspective about your experience on the ground. I will come to Mr. Vilas. Good afternoon, Mr. Vilas. You being a CIO, you've seen it from the other side of the river, I would say, that, how there is a lot of demand from maintenance teams for software or for ways to integrate and get the best out of what we can. What are your, initial views as part of a supplier for pharma companies?
Interestingly, when I started my career in IT, the first system that I developed for, when I was working in Gujarat Murja Cement, the first system that I developed was a maintenance management system. It's very interesting. Okay, so that's actually passionate about the developing the system for addressing the business solutions, and we definitely look forward for various technologies for solving our business problems. And maintenance is, of course, while as a profession, as a business, is good, but at the same time, it is a non-value activity in terms of the production. So the application should look forward to reducing the downtime because of maintenance, and help the organization to do maintenance on the fly. Whatever technologies that, we are continuously scouting for technologies. Whatever technologies help, one, reduce the downtime for maintenance, and two, to look forward for having such solutions which maintenance can be done while the production is on. So, we used to have in our servers itself, used to have the downtime as our servers goes down in maybe 15-20 years back. If the server, there was a problem, the server would go down. And today the servers come with so much of inbuilt intelligence. So we would look forward for the solutions which built in intelligence within the machines to ensure that one self-maintenance or at least information sharing that, okay, I look forward to for maintenance, which will reduce the downtime because of the failure that could be possible. And also, the maintenance can be done while the production keeps running. So we as an organization who supply machines as well to the customers, we always continuously invent or continuously innovate to do something which is going to help customers to reduce downtime. We are very actively working on this in using the latest technologies in terms of the IoT, etc. But definitely, that is our endeavor as a supplier of machines as a service provider to the pharma industry.
Yeah, so I won't be surprised that in the next 5 years that many of your equipments will have embedded sensors and all of that.
Absolutely. There will be state-of-the-art machines which have all these, and also maintenance-free or least maintenance kind of machines.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Pujari. Kashyap, good afternoon and welcome to the panel. My question to you, being a person who is heading the maintenance function, my question to you is, how do you find and what is the pressure that is there in balancing productivity, that uptime of a machine, and taking a machine for maintenance, knowing that if you don't fix it now, you're going in for trouble as we go forward? What are your thoughts on that or your experience on that?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. Basically, there is a lot of pressure considering the productivity and the volumes that we want to produce for our chemical plants. We have major OEMs, mainly from the automobile industries, for which we have to keep on our toes every time and ensuring that we have a right maintenance processes. For example, the preventive maintenance and even the predictive maintenance to minimize the downtime and ensure that the products, the production is running continuously non-stop without any interruptions. So yes, there are a lot of challenges in terms of keeping it to the customer's expectation. And we are following our well-defined maintenance excellence program in the region. We have 15 manufacturing sites in IMEA, and all sites are very well spread across the region with the multicultural, multi-language thing. We have the sites right from 200 tons of production to 4,000 tons in a month. So one size does not fit all. So we have to have a different maintenance strategy in place for each site, which is aligned with our corporate standards, and with the approach to have a process criticality and ensuring that at the minimized risk we are maintaining that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
And the personal, I would say the personal KPI which I am considering is that the team should be made free with more and more proactive approach, and I consider that they should have a quality time spending with their family. That's what I'm targeting as a personal KPI.
Yeah. Wow, that's nice. Very nice to hear that. Ashok, coming back to you, I just wanted to ask you a simple question about, are you currently using any IoT or sensor-based data gathering and analysis? And if you are not, or either way, are or are not, then can you tell me what do you think are the ways forward from your standpoint?
Sure.
Maintenance, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So we do use. That's the short answer. So that being said, again, I would like to touch upon the basics. Well-operated or well-maintained equipment will not only produce the right part, right time, but will also keep the cost and rework down. So it's extremely imperative to have a perfect maintenance program. And yeah, we do use some of these IoTs and other techniques. Maybe I take offline on what techniques we use and all. But that being said, I'll slightly answer it in a general way. See, planned maintenance, earlier traditionally you used to do preventive and corrective maintenance. And now with all this modern advent of conditional-based maintenance, which we are focusing upon, helps us to predict the failures But also we should not see with all these fancy predictive maintenance and conditional maintenance, few other things also we shouldn't lose focus, which is having redundancies in critical area and also have a
Absolutely.
robust spares management program. So all those basics too are good. And this predictive maintenance really augment all those earlier techniques. And in our area, we categorize our operations such as supercritical, critical, and non-critical, and we have a tailored approach. I think one of the panelists, I think Joshi also echoed the same. Not one size fits all. So supercritical equipment will need all the modern interventions so that they run without any issue. And critical do not need an IoT solution. You could have a handheld device. Once in a while, you can do that. Non-critical, just a checklist and a visual observation might suffice. So it depends on what you want from the equipment. And
Right.
one thing we should also not lose sight is analytics, not of just machine, but also production logs. For example, in our organization, all maintenance records are all in, they're all captured electronically, not too many log sheets hanging around. What we also do is we do text mining of those logs to understand the areas where are concentrated with issues. So we use text mining and few other techniques which helps us scan through the logs. See, even if you in a given day, if you have like 100 lines of log, in a month that could be 3,000. In a few months it could run into, I don't know, like 10, 15,000. So having some kind of a text mining will help you understand all the key issues. So that's also another very easy avenue to look upon. So these are all several things that we are pursuing to ensure that our plant keeps up and running. Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Ashok. So, a couple of things came off from what you just mentioned. One is the equipment ranking capabilities, which is basically the capability of criticality and super criticality, and low criticality. I'm sure the audience they are doing this in companies as you rightly mentioned. You need to do that because then and that again becomes the foundation stone for reliability centered maintenance, where then that 20% of your equipment consume 80% of your budgets for maintenance because they are super critical and you can't afford them to go down. So that's one part of it that you really touched upon. The other part is, you touched upon log sheets. Now, log sheets are something that are replaced pretty much by maybe the use of sensors, not apple to apple, but most of it, because log sheets keep a record of a few things. Sensors give you the record of those things. But there has been always this one fear that, investment is very high. There was a time when sensors themselves were very expensive. So, Mr. Joshi, coming to you, are you using IoT in your plants? What is your take on sensor cost or using IoT or doing any of those new age maintenance techniques? Not equipment ranking, but I'm talking of using sensors or IoT. And what is your opinion about the asset in heavy investments that are required for IoT? What are your observations on that?
Yeah, let me give you the honest answer on this. Basically, what we have done is based on the site-specific maintenance strategies. We have defined our various levels of maintenance, and we go on implementing those maintenance levels. Let's say, for example, right from reactive to preventive to predictive, and even spares and reliability centered maintenance.
Yeah.
So what we have done is we have jotted down the implementation plan, and based on the site specific need, we are working on that plan. For example, Henkel has a strategic framework where the digitalization is one of the cornerstones to achieve the competitive edge. And for that, as a proof of concept, we have installed the IoT sensors in few sites, as a proof of concepts, particularly for vibration and temperature monitoring. That will be done online to check on condition of the components. But this is a very, very early stage. We have associated with the sensor manufacturing company at the global level. And in India also, we are working with our solution partner who offer this solution, but it is the external sensors which will measure the vibrations, and those vibrations will be then calibrated with the standard threshold limits, which can give the alarms on our man-machine interface screens. And based on that, the immediate corrective actions can be taken. But this is just the first phase, I would say, of the condition-based monitoring. The second phase is what the predictive analysis, and that's where the team and the solution partners are working to provide the solution based on the data analytics and the history of data.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Joshi, because I again get 2 points from what you just said, and I want to emphasize this for the audience. One is that, of course, there is going to be an investment, but you need a use case. You just don't take this like paint and apply it all across a whole factory. You take a specific use case, run an IoT on that, see the benefits that you get, then you scale it up. So that is one point that, Mr. Joshi, I pick up from what you said.
And one more thing which I want to add on here is there is one more drive that we are taking place with the help of solution providers on the ultrasonics, because that's where we feel that if we want to have asset integrity in place, we have to do proper measurements of the deterioration of bearings, Absolutely. Even if it is a low RPM bearing, or even in case of a corrosion detection technique. That's what we are working right away with ultrasonics.
Not everything happens through sensors. Some could be through ultrasonics or vibrometers or thermal imaging that comes in, and you translate that data into thresholds being violated. Yeah, good point there. The other point that I got from what you said, Mr. Joshi, is that this is to be taken as a competitive advantage. If you don't do it, your competition is going to do it, and they're going to get their nose or neck ahead in time. So it's a very important thing. There is going to be a cost, but I'm not, I want to just repeat this, that we are not talking of a huge jump in sensor-based application in the plant, but take your use cases relevant to what your business is and then apply it, which will help you harness and get exponential benefit as you go down the digital path. Mr. Pujari, being an IT, what has been your observation of seeing mobile devices in maintenance or energy monitoring? Because IT then starts doing OT, operational data. So there is a complete, the line blurs there, as they say.
Yes.
So what has been your view on that? Seen mobile devices used in maintenance? Have you seen IT, OT being blurring out?
Yeah. See, one, surely, the use of sensors, as everybody in maintenance and, IT industry generally are aware. Sensors are not new. Sensors have been existing since long.
Correct.
What has changed is the flow of data from sensors to the internet. The data or the machine data getting converted into digital, that is physical to digital. That has been one change that has happened. Okay. Second thing is that this is leading to blurring of the this IT, OT, yes, we are telling, because so far whatever was physical was with maintenance, OT, and whatever was digital was with IT. Now, if this is becoming digital, then where would it go?
Absolutely.
It has to be with OT or IT. So, because managing maintenance, managing sensor probably would be a maintenance teams, and the instrumentation, electronics team are good at. But when it comes to managing data, IT is good at. Okay, because then there are licensing, backup, so many things that are associated with data. And of course, the leveraging data with using analytics for better decision making. So that is where the image is blurring everywhere, and a new field probably called as digital is evolving. So the digital will probably try to encompass and touch upon the relevant digital parts of IT. After more of it is IT is digital, and then also OT. When that starts happening, the integration between the maintenance or the teams who use data of production maintenance would very well get integrated with the IT. And then the digital team, IT team, or so-called digital team, will start playing a major role in enhancing the value of the data for the organization, by directly giving the business benefit to the end users as to how to use this data and how to leverage this data for better productivity, better maintenance, and also improving the quality.
Yeah, good point, Mr. Pujari. But one more thing that you brought out from your, what you just expressed now is typically when you are going to bring in a blurring of lines between IT and OT, then it also mandates that your ERP starts to only support a EAM which is on the cloud, because you are going to find it extremely dangerous, risky, because getting OT data into your ERP, because you have to scrub the data outside and get the whole thing internally.
Yeah. So how are we managing? Let me explain. See, the OT data should not come into ERP, because the ERP is made for a different activity, different business processes, business function, whereas OT data is made for a different. So we need to create what is called as data lake, so which could contain the data from OT as well as from ERPs, and then do some kind of massaging of data to give the better analytics, including the functional, the business process data, and the maintenance and technical and quality data.
Thank you, because that's exactly where I think maintenance is going today. It's taking.
See, one more thing is that if you put a lot of data of maintenance or OT into ERP, where it doesn't have any business to be there, so it should not get into the wrong place.
Yeah, absolutely. You really touched upon that, because that is where a cloud-based digital journey of an asset management solution scales you.
Yes.
I also have, in 28 years, I've seen enough companies start with preventive maintenance modules or ERPs. But I think I have seen in the last 18 months, and I'll give you specific times, I have seen very large utility companies, service providing companies, metros and all coming and asking, saying, hey, can you give me an EAM asset on the cloud, which also helps me to go and reach out to data lakes, make sense out of it? Because ERP has my financial data and I don't want to compromise on exposing that to any of these.
Exactly.
So, Ashok, you have any points on that to say?
No, nothing much to add. It resonates with me and I would echo it.
Yeah, thank you. And Mr. Joshi, anything you want to say on that?
No, we have Industry 4.0 for our major sites in India as well as in Middle East and Africa. And we have done the deep integration of SAP to DCS and with the Industry 4.0 to have the real-time data flow in both the ways, and that should give us data of the downtime or the losses where we can use this for implementation or as a requirement of total productive maintenance. So that's what we have done as a deep integration of SAP with DCS and with.
Yeah. And where do you do your analytics, Mr. Joshi?
Yes, that is also done on the cloud base.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So one final question to each one of you, Ashok, Mr. Joel, or Mr. Kashyap, and Vilas, is that do you have any compliances that you have to handle from a part of your business or from part of your plant, which I think enterprise asset management will be able to effectively handle? Let me give you an example. In pharma, there is this whole e-calibration. They have this 21 CFR Part 11 requirement of e-calibration, e-records, e-signatures to be done. So what are your thoughts? I would just take the same question across to all three of you, gentlemen. And I would want to start with Mr. Ashok.
Yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much there in any industry. In fact, we also supply products to food industry as well. Yeah, those requirements are there, and we use our ERP system to ensure that only right products are tagged for dispatch to the customer. So that's on the finished goods side. Similarly, naturally, all industries are required to comply with all the government norms, whether it's in terms of air emission, effluent, discharge. There are also these tools go a very long way, and they're extremely handy, especially to monitor the stack properties, whether it's NOx, SOx, SPM. Similarly, in the effluent, whether what is the TS.
Yeah, EHS, complete EHS.
All these things, and it's actually, and so what we have certain sophisticated system where we monitor and we operate much below the compliance norms. And when we see an uptick, even whether it's within the compliance norms, still if it goes above our internal comfort limit, we get into RCA mode and we find out what the issues are. So this, I mean, the IoT and all these tools really help us to be extremely compliant on an ongoing basis. I have been experiencing that.
Thank you so much. That's a really good point, because EHS is an integral part of maintenance, though it is done by a safety or admin within plants. I think environmental health and safety, especially in manufacturing plants, it starts with the asset, because if the asset fails or the equipments fail, then you have a problem, right?
Right.
So,
And if I could just add one point, in fact, in our daily management, we start with EHS and only then we go to production of all other areas. So we start with what is our compliance performance today versus what are the norms and how are our people doing, what is the safety record. Why that's pretty much across the Tata Group. So first is we take care of the environment and safety of our personnel and assets. And only then we really talk about, okay, how much we produce for the given day. And
correct. Good point.
Other aspects.
Yeah, good point actually. One more thing I've seen is that environmental health and safety is something that as the Tata Group is known to be looking at that on priority. It is something that is again to be seen integrated with the plant functioning, the operational, and it kind of roots out of assets. So that's something that we have seen many of our customers use that very actively to ensure that they comply regulatory or mandatory requirements on the business or on the local regulation front. Mr. Joshi, any points on that? Any thoughts on how EHS or regulatory compliances in your business are supported by maintenance?
I think I fully agree with what Mr. Ashok has said. I mean, on most of the manufacturing industries, we have well defined the norms, particularly the emissions norm for the stacks and all that, which we have to comply by regularly monitoring. Even that is now being made mandatory to feed the data from the stacks directly to the regulatory authorities. And safety is the topmost priority in Henkel, being the chemical company. So it's nothing we do is worth getting hurt for. That is what the safety tagline we have. And yes, I think rest of all the pressure testing, the calibration, the load test. So all are the compliance part that we normally check regularly.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know. I don't see Mr. Pujari with us. Maybe if he's there, then I would request him to just respond for his views. Hafiz, do you see him?
No, unfortunately, I think we lost him. So I think let's continue with Ashok and Kashyap.
Yeah, okay. So I think, just want to summarize it. We've been speaking almost for more than half an hour or so. I think it's very important that you look at enterprise asset management from a cloud computing perspective, because in days to come, you will find that you have to scale up to data lakes and all the other things that you want. Otherwise, there are ways to do it, Henkel doing it, where very huge amounts of investments done on a global scale for the company to really scale it up within and integrate and do the compliance bit of it. I would want to just take this time and also remind all the audience that there is a cost to be paid, use cases to be done before you actually go in to use IoT and the analytics and get the benefits of doing IoT and analytics on the maintenance front. But it's one of the easiest and lowest hanging fruit which you can pick from the computing power that is available to us today. With this, I would want to really thank Mr. Ashok Muthuswamy. I want to thank Mr. Kashyap Joshi and Mr. Vilas Pujari for your valuable time and sharing your experience for the general benefit of the audience that we have on. Over to you, Hafiz. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Binu. Thank you, panel members. I think that was very much insights. We still have time. If Binu, you wanted to add from your perspective, we have still.
Do we have any questions that we want to take?
Yeah. So let's take.
Please just help us guide the questions.
Yeah.
Maybe just the three of us, Ashok, Kashyap, or myself, can also take the question.
What about data theft and mining while in cloud? So we are talking about a lot of data to be in cloud. What are the risks, of data theft? So if you want to answer that.
Yeah, one of you?
Not exactly my domain, so I would pass.
Binu, you would like to go take
Yeah,
this?
surely I would. I would want to add on it. In the US, we are having aerospace and defense companies use the cloud. In India, I don't know how much of you know, but already there are governments using the cloud with data centers in India. The fear is going away. Most of us go to ATMs and take money, and we also go and use our Google. Many companies are using Google for Business, which is on the multi-tenant cloud. I think the worry about theft is lesser than the worry about drops in connectivity that may happen once or twice in 2 years. So I would want to put it, compared to you not having connectivity for a period of time with your data centers, maybe a realistic problem than having data thefts that you have. Because today, with multi-tenant exclusive data being kept in a separate place, with all types of, have you ever heard AWS? We partner with AWS and with other esteemed partners who are there in the market. You've never heard anybody hack into those servers. So that is the kind of protection and defense that is there from theft of data. That's my small answer that I can give. Mr. Joshi, you want to add something there?
No, me either. I'm not the expert, but we have a dedicated DX team. We call it as a digital team, who is driving the digital transformation across the manufacturing sites. And this is one of the, I would say, a core topic which is addressed by the DX team for the data security and integrity. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's our small answer to that, Hafiz.
Yeah, if any of one can take this, what is the normal payback of digitalization? We're talking about a lot of technology being implementation and maintenance, 4.0. What is the payback, which once Vivekanand Singh wants to know?
Any thoughts on that?
It's very, depends on case to case. So
Absolutely.
hate to give you a prescriptive one. Whatever suits your business. See, don't look at payback only from just the immediate return. Look at it as an equipment which is available, which can help you produce better quality items. You can meet your customer requirements at the right quality. So if you look at all, you have to look at total cost of ownership of these devices, not just look at very narrow aspects. If you do that, I am sure it will pay back. But that being said, it's a very, very generic answer. You need a lot of data to understand what would be the payback, and what's accepted in one industry may not be the same for other industries.
Mm-hmm. So I think it's a industry specific, use case specific, and what is it? Is it increasing your revenue, reducing your spare part cost, or any of those kind of reduction of cost, or is it actually getting you a longer uptime of your asset, which helps you to produce more? So these are three areas that I would say, and there are enough cases in the market in the globe that there are companies who have benefited from it. So you have to take that experience and localize it, see how is it that for my business I can do it.
I have a little different perspective on this. Of course, the digitalization is the new way that we have to go ahead. There is no doubt about it. You see, everything has changed. The things that we were doing earlier is no longer valid today, and we have to be ever evolving on that. So digitalization is the only key thing. But when it comes to payback, okay, that is a good term in terms of a quantitative analysis. But there are some major qualitative things behind this in terms of rejected components, in terms of losing the customers, brands, and reputation, and in terms of having the accidents and losing a life. Okay. So I think to have a continuous process of a good quality product in a safer way, in a much reliable way, and fulfilling all the customer needs, the volume requirements, the quality requirements, then this is the way we should be going. But of course, that payback will have to be justified to the management.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, because I think there's a lot of variables that are you brought into picture, life, permanent loss of a customer and all of that, which I think Ashok and I were not even touching upon, I guess. So, yeah, good point. Thank you. Yeah, over to you, Hafiz.
With this, I think if you allow, can we end this?
Yeah, I think I'm done. Ashok, you have any last points or comments to make? Mr. Joshi, any points?
Or we can take last one, how AI and ML will predicting the machine failure in cloud base. How do that?
That's a topic for another session.
Yeah.
That's the title of another session, I guess. But yeah, there are ways, and which I think Ashok briefly touched upon it, and one of the presenters touched upon it.
Correct.
You take different variables of a asset and you monitor it, then you start seeing some trends that you wouldn't have seen till today, because there are multiple variables and how they associate. For example, vibration of an equipment, temperature of an equipment, output of an equipment. If they correlate and you see some huge amounts of data is analyzed, you will be able to find insights to tend to find when the equipment is going to fail. So that's a big story in itself, but I think that's the short of the long, I would say.
Yeah, just if I could just quickly add, yeah, that's where machine learning and all these tools come very handy with clustering and other techniques. In fact, if I could just give you one small example, see, one of the best uses of AI is trains. Trains have so many sensors, and they have so much rich data, and it's all analyzed on a real-time basis. And if they know that certain equipment, depending on whatever the trend, they can predict the brake failure or whatever. So yeah, I mean, as Bino mentioned, it's a very vast subject. Unfortunately, you don't need to know all that to put a good predictive maintenance program. Certain service providers who handle all these nitty-gritty. All that you need to be clear as a practitioner is to see, what are the inputs and what are the output. What do you expect this program to do? If you're clear in that concept, I think I will leave it to the experts of those domain to work on that.
Perfect. And in fact, thank you very much. Thank you very much, dear panel members, for your insights. I am personally very satisfied. The session was filled with insight. Satish gave a great perspective. His experience, real life scenario shared by Samir, and much more. We appreciate our panel speakers, Ashok sir, Vilas Pujari, Kashyap Joshi, and Binu. Especially thank you very much for moderating this. Your commitment and dedication in sharing your insight to the industry, for their learning, means really a lot to us. Additionally, I'm sure thank you very much for thought-provoking questions from the audience, made the discussion very lively. We hope it was learning experience for each one of us at the summit. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. Be safe. Thank you again.